All right, so we are going to get started. Hi, everyone. As I said, welcome and thank you for attending. My name is Shannon Dwyer. I am the digital banking strategist for Dutch Point Credit Union, and I will be your host for the seminar this evening. We are really looking forward to sharing this information with you. Lots of information on scams and fraud and ways that you can help yourself to avoid becoming a victim. I do have a quick housekeeping note. We have enabled both a chat and a Q&A feature on this webinar, so that if you have questions along the way, you can enter them there. We will do our best to answer your questions at the conclusion of the presentation, but if we are unable to answer your questions at the end, then we will follow up with you after the conclusion of the webinar. Okay, so with that said, let's get started. Give me just a minute here to get my presentation up and running. And we are going to go from the beginning. Yes, so as mentioned, tonight's presentation is on protecting yourself from scams and fraud. Big topic these days. So let's first cover what our seminar objectives will be. First, we're going to discuss what is identity theft. We'll discuss how fraud occurs, give you some ways that fraudsters, tap in and commit that fraud. Then we're going to review some of today's most common scams, and along the way, give you tips on ways to protect yourself from those scams. We'll cover what to do if you are a victim of identity theft, fraud, or a scam. And then, as I said, at the end, we'll leave some time open for questions. Okay, first, we are going to cover what identity theft is. Identity theft is the act of stealing your personal information with the intent to commit fraud. Your personal information is then used by these fraudsters to do things like open new accounts on your behalf, take out credit, file your taxes with the intent of stealing your tax return, and get access to services such as medical coverage. Identity theft allows someone to pretend to be you. It's a scary thing, and it can do a lot of harm to you and the years of work you have put into building your financial portfolios. It can create significant damage to your credit status, since the thieves will likely take out loans and credit cards, and they have no intention of paying them back. Many times, a person doesn't even realize they've become a victim of identity theft until the late notices start piling up in the mail. We all know that credit takes years to build, but it can take just days or weeks to decline. Identity theft can also cost you time and money. It takes an enormous amount of time and effort to report the theft to multiple companies, place freezes on your credit, and overall get a good handle on exactly how much damage a fraudster has done. And there may be liabilities that you have to pay as a result, even if it isn't your fault. So overall, identity theft can cause an immense strain on you and your financial picture. Now let's take some time to talk about how fraud occurs. I'm sure we've all heard the timeless quote, "If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is." But fraudsters make their living by making sure the deals they offer you appear to be both good and true. The trick is figuring out when good becomes too good. All fraud uses deception and tricks to entice their targets. The common thread that binds different types of fraud is the psychology the fraudsters use behind their pitch. Many successful con artists are clever, they're disciplined, and they're highly skilled at what they do. Whether they make that pitch over the internet, by telephone, through the mail, or even in person, these criminals tend to use the same tactics time after time. Think of the fraudsters as masters of persuasion. They tailor their pitches to match the psychological profiles of their targets. That's you and me. They'll start by asking seemingly harmless questions, like maybe they'll ask about your health, your family, maybe your political views, your hobbies, or your prior employers. And once they know which buttons to push, they will bombard you with a bunch of influence tactics. And those can leave even the most alert person so very dizzy. Ultimately, fraudsters trap their victims into making an emotional, not rational decision. So learning how to recognize how fraudsters play on emotions and deception can help you avoid becoming a victim. Now let's discuss the paths these scammers take to commit that fraud. There are many ways fraudsters use to commit crimes, and this is just a small list, but it's an important one since these ways are typically the most common. So today we're going to review the following ways fraud occurs. You'll have data breaches. Maybe you'll have a computer virus, computer viruses, malware, and ransomware. Phishing and smishing, strange words, but they mean something. Then there's skimming. There's credit card and debit card compromises. Good old-fashioned check fraud. Also dumpster diving. And then finally, we'll talk about account takeover. First, we have data breaches. A data breach occurs when a fraudster taps into a company's personal system and they steal personal information without the authorization or knowledge of the system's owner. Stolen data may involve confidential information like your social security number, your date of birth, your address, phone numbers, and maybe your credit or debit card numbers. Now, I'm sure we've all heard of data breaches, both large and small, in the news. And some of us may also have been notified that our information was included in one. Fraudsters use this tactic to steal personal information in a bulk, quick format to maximize what they get. And they usually attempt to sell it for profit on the dark web. Next up is computer viruses, malware, and ransomware. Scammers find ways to install bad software on your device, and that can expose your personal information. Now, viruses are usually transmitted from visiting unsecure websites or by clicking on links or attachments that you get in emails. To go along with computer viruses is malware and ransomware. These are names of viruses that can get installed on a device. And once installed, they can do damage to your computer. They can track what you do. They can track what sites you visit. And they can even track the keys you hit on your keyboard. No matter what they're called, they all have the same goal, and that's to steal your personal information. Next up is phishing and smishing. So phishing is a type of fraud where an attacker sends a fraudulent message designed to trick you into providing sensitive information. And they will make the message look so real, you'll think it's from a legitimate person or company. Phishing is also used to send viruses and malware, again, with the same goal. Smishing is the same as phishing, except with smishing, the fraudulent messages are sent via text message. And fraudsters have become very good at smishing. They even go so far as to spoof. Spoof is replicate and use a phone number that you are familiar with to send the text messages. Phishing and smishing has become widely popular, and smishing especially because fraudsters know that text messaging is the preferred communication method for many people these days. Scary stuff, but good to know. Skimming. So skimming is a high-tech method of credit card and ATM fraud. And they use electronic devices and cameras to collect card and PIN data. Criminals will install devices and cameras on ATMs or even their door entrances. And they grab your card information when you swipe through the device. They've also found ways to overtake swipers at retailers like gas pumps, restaurants, shopping establishments, all sorts of places that accept cards. Once the fraudster has your card information, they can make internet purchases without your knowledge, or even create fake cards, which can be used at stores, gas stations, and ATMs. You'll see a picture on the slide of an ATM that had a card skimmer and a camera placed by a fraudster. The camera's there to detect your PIN, see your PIN when you type it in. And the card skimmer, when you put your card in, swipes your card and captures your card information. So once they have your card information and they have the PIN, the sky's the limit. They can do whatever they want and they can try to steal your money. Now, many of the fraud avenues we've already discussed usually result in some kind of credit card or debit card compromise. So now, how many of us on here tonight have discovered a fraudulent transaction on one of our cards over the years? I'm sure probably everyone on this webinar tonight is nodding our heads because unfortunately, card compromises are all too common. Scammers look for any way that they can get that card information and use it to their advantage to make large purchases or transfer money electronically. Next up, check fraud. Now, some of you may be thinking, people don't get checks anymore. How can check fraud still take place? I mean, we move all of our money electronically. We don't get very many checks anymore. I will tell you that check fraud is still very popular, though consumers have become more knowledgeable in spotting these scams. Check fraud can lead to a significant loss of money if you fall victim to it. And check fraud scams work because fake checks generally look just like real checks, even to credit union and bank employees. They're often printed with the names and addresses of legitimate financial institutions. They may even be real checks written on bank accounts that belong to identity theft victims. It can sometimes take weeks for a bank or a credit union to figure out that the check is a fake. Next, we have dumpster diving. Dumpster diving has been around for a long time, and it reminds us of the importance of shredding our personal information before tossing it. Fraudsters will dig through the mail and the trash in order to find bank or card statements, maybe pre-approval offers, or other documents containing personal information. While this tactic may sound messy, it is a fast and easy way for fraudsters to gain access to your personal information. Finally, there's account takeover. When account takeover happens, scammers take full control of your bank account. That means your online banking, your checking accounts, savings accounts, any associated cards, debit, credit, everything. And they act quickly to cause as much damage as possible in a short period of time. It's a scary thought, but it really happens. And it's important to remain alert to avoid becoming a victim. Now, before we move on to our next seminar topic, we're going to share a short video with you. This video is from the Federal Trade Commission, which is otherwise known as the FTC. And it provides you with 5 ways to help protect your identity. So let's take a moment to give it a watch.
Identity theft happens. It's an unfortunate fact of modern life. But there are certain steps you can take to help keep your personal information from falling into the wrong hands. Every day you do things to protect what's most important to you. And you know what? You do them almost automatically. Routine things like looking both ways before you cross, brushing your teeth, and buckling your seatbelt. Another routine to get into is keeping tabs on your identity and personal information. Here are 5 easy ways you can do it. Read your credit card and bank statements carefully and often. Know your payment due dates. If a bill doesn't show up when you expect it, look into it. Read the statements from your health insurance plan. Make sure the claims paid match the care you got. Shred any documents with personal and financial information. Review each of your 3 credit reports at least once a year. It's easy and it's free. And before you know it, protecting your personal information can be as routine as locking your doors at night. For more tips and tools on dealing with identity theft, visit ftc.gov/ID theft. That's ftc.gov/ID theft.
Good stuff there. The Federal Trade Commission has a bunch of really great short videos on their YouTube page that can also give you additional tips on protecting your identity and avoiding scams and fraud. So I would definitely recommend you check them out. Great. Okay, so we've covered what identity theft is. We've covered some of the many ways fraud can occur. And we've talked about some tips on ways to protect your identity. Now we're going to take some time to review the most common scams seen today. And as we do that, we'll provide you with some tips on how to protect yourself from each scenario. I want you to know there are many other scams out there besides the ones we are going to cover today. But the tips on how to protect yourself from them remain true no matter what the scam is. Okay, so let's get to it. The first scam topic we're going to cover tonight is coronavirus scams. Now more than ever, fraudsters are attempting to use COVID-19 to take advantage of consumers. So here are a few examples of coronavirus scams reported by consumers. First, there are vaccine scams. If you get a call, a text, an email, or even a person at your door offering access to vaccines in exchange for payment or your personal information, it's a scam. You want to visit your state and local health department websites to find out how, when, and where to get a COVID vaccine in your community. Then there are phishing scams. Scammers will send emails which contain an affected attachment or a link to a malicious website. The emails are made to appear like they come from the Centers for Disease Control or even the World Health Organization. Never click on links in emails or texts that you didn't expect to receive. There are also contact tracing call scams. A contact tracer from the state health department might call you if you've been exposed to COVID-19. But scammers are pretending to be contact tracers too. You want to know that real contact tracers won't ask you for money. They don't require your bank account, your credit card number, or your online login credentials, and they will never ask you for your social security number. Finally, there are government relief check scams. Fraudsters pretend to be from a government agency offering a special stimulus grant. Clicking on a link takes you to a bogus website, and there you're asked to enter personal information or maybe even your banking details to get this government relief. The links may also download malicious software onto your computer. The government, the real government, will never reach out to request this information from you. And anyone who does so is a scammer. Next, we'll talk about text message scams. If you have a cell phone today, you have most likely received a call or a text message from an unknown number, right? Calls may be easy to ignore, but scammers are now smishing, which is sending a text message in an attempt to gather confidential information. Now, being able to text your financial institution, like DutchPoint, certainly has its perks, but how do you know if a text is legitimate or not? As you may have seen, we now have the ability at DutchPoint to communicate with you via text message. We also partner with debit and credit card monitoring services, which will alert you when a suspicious transaction is discovered on your account. It would look similar to the transaction that you see on the slide in front of you. Now, it's not unusual to receive a text message from us. However, fraudsters are taking it one step further in an effort to get your information. Identity thieves will pose as credit union representatives, okay? and they'll send a text asking you to verify an account transaction. When you reply, the fraudsters call and they'll lead you to believe your account information has been compromised. They request online banking login information as a form of verifying your identity. But what they're really doing is logging into your account, changing your password, your login ID, changing your contact information, and stealing your money. So ask yourself the following questions. Does it make sense that I'm receiving this text? What information exactly is being requested? And what number is the text coming from? Avoid providing personal information when you did not initiate the call or the text message. Never give your online banking secure access code to someone else as a means of identification. That code is strictly for you. If you are ever in doubt as to whether an incoming text is legitimate, the best and safest thing you can do is verify the phone number it's coming from. Do a quick internet search or call us directly to validate the message. You can also call the phone numbers on the back of your debit or credit cards to ask questions about suspicious messages you receive. Next up is gift card scams. Now, this one is very popular because it can happen very quickly. I'm going to take a moment to pause and let you look at the example of a gift card scam taking place in the picture on this slide. So with gift card scams, scammers will ask you to pay for something with gift cards. Sometimes they say they're from the IRS collecting taxes. Maybe they say they're from tech support trying to fix your computer. Or they might even pretend to be a family member in an emergency. But what they all have in common is an urgent need for you to send money right away. Once you buy the gift card, the scammer will demand the gift card number and the PIN on the back of the card. Once they have both of those numbers, they can immediately get the money you loaded onto that card. And once they've done that, the scammers and your money are gone, usually without a trace. So always remember, gift cards are for gifts, not payments. Anyone who demands payment by gift card is always a scammer. Okay, next, we'll move on to another popular one, mystery shopper scams. So in a mystery shopper scam, a scammer fraudster reaches out to you to be a secret shopper. They'll tell you you'll need to evaluate the performance of a store or the performance of a store's employees, or even tell you that you need to evaluate the effectiveness of a money transfer service like Western Union or MoneyGram. Typically, in mystery shopper scams, you'll receive a check in the mail, which you are told to deposit in your account and withdraw a specific amount in cash. Then you're told to take the cash to the store or to the money transfer service that they specify. And typically they'll want you to purchase money orders, purchase reloadable prepaid cards, or send the money to a person via electronic transfer. in the mystery shopper scam, you are asked to evaluate your shopping experience, but no one is collecting the evaluation. Now, the picture on this slide is an example of a mystery shopper scam. Take a moment to review it and look for these suspicious areas that may alert you to this being a scam. As you review that, you're probably going to notice all of the telltale signs we just discussed are in here. Do know that many legitimate and safe mystery shopping positions do exist, but they will never involve sending or wiring money back to a person. Next, we have romance scams. Now, online dating is more popular now than ever. And unfortunately, fraudsters are using this channel as a way to try and steal your money. In this scam, fraudsters create fake profiles on dating sites and social media platforms. And these profiles are filled with just enough material to make them look real to an unsuspecting eye. The fraudsters will frequently claim to be outside of the United States, and they often claim they're in the military. And they claim this by saying that that's why they can only communicate online. This fraudster then forms a relationship with the target, with you, your potential target. And they build trust and a sense of romance and emotional connection. This process that they go through can span months until the scammer feels it's time to strike. They tap into the bond they've built and ask you to send money to them for a problem or a need that they're facing. If you find yourself communicating with someone online who matches this profile, stop all contact immediately. If you're asked to provide money for a plane ticket or maybe medical expenses, or you're asked to wire money or send gift cards due to an emergency, don't do it. While that love and romance can feel real, this is most definitely a scam. Next up is the overpayment scam. So with overpayment scams, fraudsters play the role of buyer, and they target consumers, you and me, selling a product or service. Typically, the scammer will send you a check in the mail for the purchase. That payment for the product or service will be higher than the agreed upon sale amount. And instructions will usually be provided to you, the seller, to return the portion of funds that was overpaid to the buyer. Sometimes they say it's by accident. A deposited check can take several days or more to clear. And when the original check turns out to be a fraudulent item, the seller, otherwise known as the victim, is responsible for paying the financial institution back for any money withdrawn. Legitimate buyers will never pay you more for a product or service. Now, I know that online marketplaces on sites such as Facebook and Craigslist, they make selling things convenient, but watch out for deals that may turn out to be a scam. Okay, next, we'll discuss fake prize, sweepstakes, and lottery scams. So, did you receive a letter and a check stating you've won a prize, but you don't remember entering any contests? Plenty of contests are run by reputable marketers and reputable nonprofit companies, but every day people lose thousands of dollars to prize scams. A telltale sign of this scam is that you are instructed to pay for your prize. Legitimate sweepstakes will not require you to pay taxes, shipping and handling charges, or processing fees to get your prize. You may also be told that paying money will increase your chances of winning something bigger. This too is a scam. Not going to happen. If you are ever asked to provide online banking login information, never do so. Legitimate sweepstakes will never ask you to wire money to someone, especially to a person in a foreign country, nor will they ask you for your personal login information. If you receive a letter and an accompanying check in the mail and it all sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and it is most likely a scam. This next one has become very popular. The dreaded tech support scam. Oh. So tell me this, are you getting pop-up messages, warning messages on your computer screen? Or maybe you've received a phone call that your computer has a virus. Those both may well be a tech support scam. But how do you know? And what do you do? Scammers love to sound legit by pretending to be from a real company. Let's say Microsoft or Apple. They will make your computer problem sound urgent, urgent, urgent. And they try to get you to act before you have time to think. They will ask you for full access to your computer, your bank or credit card number, or for money. But that's not how real tech support works. So, before you click the link in the pop-up or call that number, stop. Talk to someone you trust. Call your credit union. And remember, never share your bank account, your credit card number, or your social security number with anyone who contacts you. Somebody who tells you to pay them with a gift card, money transfer, or Bitcoin is always a scammer, always. The final scam we will cover today is the employment scam. Now, scammers advertise jobs the same way legitimate employers do. They'll do it online, they'll do it in newspapers, and sometimes even on TV and radio. And they'll promise you a job, but what they want is your money and your personal information. Now, I know many people would like to work from home and generate income. And scammers know this. So they claim they have jobs where you can make thousands of dollars a month working from home with little time and little effort. The job could be anything from reshipping products to selling things. And sometimes the scammers try to get you interested by saying things like, you can be your own boss, start your own business, or set your own schedule. That all sounds tempting, right? But instead of making money, you end up paying out of your own pocket for starter kits, quote unquote training, or certifications that are useless. You might also find that your credit card is charged without your permission, or you get caught up in a fake check scam. If someone offers you a job and they claim that you can make a lot of money in a short period of time and with little to no work, that's a scam. Okay, that was a lot of information covered on the trending scams seen today. So now we'll finish up our presentation covering what to do if you are a victim of identity theft or a victim of a scam. If you suspect someone has stolen your identity, the best thing to do is act quickly. So here's what you can do to protect yourself going forward. The first thing you want to do is flag your credit reports. Call one of the 3 nationwide credit reporting agencies and request a fraud alert be placed on your report. Whichever one you call will work with the other 2 agencies so they as well can flag your report. The initial fraud alert is good for 90 days. The 3 credit bureaus are listed on your screen, and their website information, as well as telephone numbers, can be found on our website for your reference. The next thing you want to do, order copies of your credit reports. Each agency's report can be a little different, so it's good to review all 3 of them at once if you are a victim of identity theft. Read the reports carefully to see if the information on them, each one, is correct. And if you see errors or signs of fraud, contact that agency reporting it immediately. Contact the credit union so that we can review your accounts with you. Identity theft can also impact your account balances if your debit card, your checks, or your online banking credentials have been compromised. Completing a full review of your accounts will help you find errors faster. Also, create an identity theft report. This can help you get fraudulent information removed from your credit report. It can stop companies from collecting debts caused by identity theft. And it can help you get additional information about these fraudulent accounts. In order to create one of these reports, you would file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission, also known as the FTC. Their website is listed on your screen and can also be found on our website. You can also call their telephone number, which is listed here for your reference and available on our website. You will receive something called an FTC affidavit after filing a complaint. Take that affidavit to your local police department and file a police report. And be sure to get a copy of the police report for your records. Additional information on what to do if your identity is stolen can be found on the Federal Trade Commission's website at www.consumer.ftc.gov. Again, you can find that on our website too. All right, so in closing, being familiar with popular scams can help you recognize one and ultimately help you avoid falling for one. DutchPoint is committed to educating you on ways to spot and avoid scams. You can learn more about fraud prevention on our website. Check out our blog and be sure to follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages to see posts about trending fraud alerts. All right, thank you once again for attending our seminar. So we're going to have time for a minute for questions. I'm going to stop sharing the presentation and go back over here to you. I hope you've learned a lot of cool stuff tonight. Let's see if we have any questions. We do have one question. One question to start here. Are services such as Credit Karma useful? Very good question. Credit Karma is a good service for you to be able to monitor your credit on a day-by-day basis. They'll provide you with your credit score. It'll show fluctuations in your credit. You'll be able to look at your credit trade lines and maybe see what's going on. So in an effort to monitor your services, a Credit Karma product would be good. The downside to Credit Karma, though, is that they typically charge you for the services that they offer. So you might find yourself paying, a lot of money over time to be able to have those services. So just watch out for what you're signing up for. And you're able to, as a consumer, get a free copy of your credit report once per year from each of the 3 credit bureaus. And you would do that on annualcreditreport.com. Okay. Let's see, we have another question. Oh, somebody wrote in, purchasing gift cards for payment is definitely a scam. Definitely a scam. Thank you. Thank you. We wanted to make sure and stress that because that definitely a scam. Let's see, we've got another question. Okay. If I fall victim to one of these scams, who is responsible? Excellent question. Unfortunately, if you fall victim to one of these scams, you may be responsible for the loss. Financial institutions like DutchPoint, we have limited availability to recoup funds that were lost due to a scam. So it's always best to assume that the potential funds lost will be your responsibility. So that can help you stay more alert and help you recognize and avoid scams and fraud. Okay. Just give it one more second. Let's see if anybody else has questions. And we have one more. Okay. See here. Oh, this is a good one. How often should I change my digital banking login ID and password? Excellent question. Excellent question. So we recommend that you review and update your login ID and your password every 3 to 6 months. Okay, that's pretty frequent, but frequent updates can help you lower your odds of your password being stolen, or maybe they figured it out, the hackers, and they decode your password or your login ID and get in. So frequent updates. And that's not just for your online banking, digital banking credentials. That's across all websites. Change your passwords frequently. Don't share passwords across different websites. I know it can be really, really hard to remember a bunch of passwords and login IDs and stuff, but it's for your protection to keep them as different as possible on all of the sites that you visit, because then that makes it harder for the fraudsters to get them. Okay, great questions. Just give it one more minute and see if anybody else has any questions. And while we're waiting again, I want to thank you so much for attending this evening. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope you think about, these things going forward when you visit websites or you get text messages you're not sure about, and that we were able to help educate you this evening on some ways to avoid scams and fraud in the future. So it looks like that's it for questions tonight. So we will end the seminar. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you at our next one. Okay, take care, everyone. Have a great night.